I do not do this, the chairman, whichever one of you is elected chairman, will start the meeting on time at 6:30. You'll look in your packet, the first thing that you'll see in your packet, you see the election. Mr. William F. Curtis, Director of School, will send the chair for the election of the board chairman, vice chairman, chairman pro tem. What I've done in your packet, you have method of election of officers. The first regular meeting of September each year, the board shall organize by electing a chairman, a vice chairman. In the event that an officer sent to the board is vacant, the board shall elect a successor to serve the remainder of the officer's term. So there is a chairman and there's a vice chairman, and then over on our other policy, 1.201, you'll see chairman pro tem. And the reason you need a chairman pro tem is you have 5 members, and let's say the chairman was out and the vice chairman was out, you've got to have somebody to chair that meeting. I cannot do that as the director of schools. Only the person elected from this body can be the chairman. So here's what we will do. On Thursday night, I will open the floor for nominations of chairman. You do not have to have a second. Just issue who you would like as chairman, and then I will say any other nominations. Other nominations could be given, and then a motion for nominations to cease, and then we will elect your chairman. We'll do the same thing for the vice chairman and the chairman pro tem. We'll go down through, and yes, they have to be different individuals for each office. So that's the deal. One thing I'm going to do for you too, I was hoping to have it tonight, but we've been incredibly slow in the office maybe the first day of the week. What I want to do, I'm going to run off the policies for you for the section 1 on dealing with the board. And so you will have hard copies of the board of the policies on section 1, which deals with the board. You'll see that in a few minutes when you get down to there. But I'm going to run you hard copies of that off so you can read through those and go through those. So you'll elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and then a chairman pro tem. Once that is done, I will then, oh, by the way, for the first thing I will do is I will recognize our employees of the month. And in your packet, you have, in regard, I'm not going to play hush mouth here, who the individuals are, who the employees of the month. But you can see their accomplishments in that packet, in that email that I did send you, and I did make a copy for your packet, so you can look at that. Okay, then I'll do a roll call, and then we will go to the election of chairman, vice chairman, and chairman pro tem. Any questions there? Okay. By the way, thank you for serving on this, especially our 2 newest members that were nominated by the county commission and approved last Thursday night. Yeah, I know it's probably been a whirlwind for both of the ladies on this. I think Derek and Mr. McMackins weighed in what they were doing, and so they are elected, and as of right now, no one else is qualified as far as I know. I'm not checked today, but as of last Friday, everybody was. You two were the only ones. Letha, are you still working? Okay. Do you need a signature?
I do.
Okay, that'd be nice. We'll do that, but no one is qualified other than or picked up petitions as of right now for the November election. Okay, the next thing we do is we will approve the agenda. Item number 2, approve the agenda. Now, if you want to bring new items that are not on the agenda, now here's how we do the agenda. On the last day of the month is the last day for anybody, if anybody wants to get on the agenda, to get on the agenda. So like in this month, the last day of the month was the 31st. And so agenda closed after that. So if you want to get something on the agenda, please email Douglas or Teresa. In fact, Douglas is moving on to the big house, meeting upstairs. So Douglas is going up there. So I will email Teresa Lewis. That's Teresa.Lewis@ccsdm.net. And if you want to put an agenda item on there, or you can just call me and say, Mr. President, put this on the agenda. That's what Mr. Fan has done in the past and others have done in the past. Can I put this on the agenda? I said, and here's what happens. Whoever you elect as chairman, sometime that next week, the chairman will get by Friday, usually it's on that Friday, the chairman will get with me and then we set the agenda. If you look there on the duties of the officers that you have there, one of the duties of the officer of chairman is to work with the director of schools to assist them, the director of schools, in preparing meeting agendas. So that's one of the first duties of the chairman, is to make sure that those agenda items are done. And then it goes from that point on. And so the agenda, you see this is a rather long agenda, 15 items. And so you'd be amazed how quickly you can move through if Mr. Curtis will stop. So we'll try to get moving along, and whoever is elected as chairman, move me along. That's your job. Mr. Curtis, thank you for that information for everybody. And now, if you go through an item using parliamentary procedure, and whoever's elected chairman will get you a copy of the parliamentary procedure book, and that is Robert's Rules of Order. I'll get you a copy of that, and then you can move forward with that. But if you get tired of debate, call for the question. And that's all we have to say. I call for the question. And you call for the question, then that means all debate stops. We call for the question, you vote, and if everybody agrees, then pretty well, we never had a call for the question as far as since I've been on the board. So most of the time, everybody's ready to vote, we get ready to vote. So there's the chairman, probably should have. We probably should have a time to call for the question. So we call for the question, and guess what? All debate stops, the chairman takes the vote. All those in favor call for the question, and that's 2/3 majority. Once you get that, then you move on, and then you vote on the item. So a little bit of parliamentary procedure is what we do. And that's the board, that's part of your policy too, that you've adopted Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, any question about the agenda? So if you want to change anything on the agenda, you get here and you want to add something, then you move to add this, and then they vote on the agenda as amended. And then vote on the agenda itself once the amendment takes place. Is that correct, Dave? Okay, so that's what you do. If you want to add to the agenda, you can add to it. But you're going to have the votes to add to it. Okay, so, but most of the time, if you'll tell the chairman by that first Friday of the month, we can get that, or the director of schools, let me know, we will get that on the agenda, even if it's past the 31st for board members. 31st is the deadline for the general public. So y'all would have let me know, like on this one, you would let me know by the 4th, if me or the chairman, and saying we need to add, I'd like to have this particular item to the agenda. So you can add to that up to the 4th. And you can even add it on the 10th and we've had to do that time or two, where something's come up or something has occurred, you can add items to the 10th, to that, whatever the second Thursday is.
48 hours to notify them.
Correct. Yeah, 48 hours to notify the public that I've got to do that. And again, if we have to have a special call meeting, again, that was in those other sheets I gave you a few moments ago. If you have to have a special call meeting, then we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, anything about the agenda? So there are 15 items. It's a pretty lengthy agenda. I told you the other night, I said, I don't think it's going to be a lot, but guess what? And when I say that, we always have several other items out there and go from there. Any questions about approving the agenda? Okay, we go to item number 3. And that is the consent agenda. Consent agenda are usually routine items that don't need a lot of debate, don't need a lot of discussion. They're just routine. And on this month's, the consent agenda is approve the minutes of the August 13, 2020 and August 18, 2020 meetings of the board. So those items there are the ones where you would approve the minutes. If there's a change to the minutes, and normally I go through the minutes, I will read them, And I will make changes even before Douglas usually prints those out. And that will be Teresa Lewis after probably October meeting. Douglas will not be doing it any longer. So Teresa will do the minutes, and she will take what we do. You can see these are called motion sheets, and these motion sheets are what I do in keeping up as the secretary of the board. I am the secretary by our minutes, by our bylaws. The Board of Education policy puts me as the secretary. Whether I like it or not, I'm the secretary. I can put a designee as the secretary if I need to, but that's why I call the roll. When the chairman tells me to call the roll, I call the roll and I read the motion. This is a motion sheet. It's simply got the date, what item number it is, the date, the motion was made by so-and-so and seconded by so-and-so, and here's the subject. So my subject is the consent agenda, and here is the consent agenda. To approve the consent agenda, A, approve the minutes of the August 13, 2020, and August 18, 2020 meetings of the board, and B, no bus trips. So normally if there's an out-of-state field trip, okay, or an overnight field trip, those are approved during the consent agenda. Now, prom and senior trip is usually approved as a separate item. But on these are consent agenda trips, approve these bus trips to and from. Right now it's pretty easy because no bus trips are going on. So, okay. So my suggestion, look through the minutes. Javen was the chairman at the time. He will sign these. And I apologize for hopefully we'll have the copier fixed. The copier is on the fritz, but that's where we got those black boxes on there. So the copier is due to be worked on here before the meeting. So I'll have that all nice and neat for you. And then Javen usually signs those after the meeting, or whoever the chairman is will sign those after the meeting. Okay, any questions? Because it doesn't go into effect until the minutes are approved. Okay, meaning if you approve a policy, that policy will not go will go into effect the time you do it, but it will not be approved until and sent to TSBA until the minutes are approved. Got somebody want to change something, and that's why they do that. All right, questions about the consent agenda?
After something passes, according to Robert's Rules of Order, someone on the winning side can bring it back up, or someone on the losing side cannot. You have to remember that. If there's something you want to change, if you voted yes and it passed, then you can bring it back up. If you voted no and it failed, then you can bring it back up. But if you're on the losing side of it, whichever way it went, then you can't bring it back up.
That's called a motion to reconsider. So not too bad for them to faith back into that. Okay, any questions about that? But normally, if there's a change or something, a lot of times on things, you give me editorial license to look at if they need to make any kind of punctuation changes or things like that to change. Then you allow me to do that as secretary. Okay, questions anymore? All right, let's go to number 4, approve the school board meeting schedule for 2020-2021. Now, what I included in your packet is policy number 1.400, school board meetings and notification of meetings. You have a time where there are meetings that need to be approved or not be approved. These are the meeting dates. What you've got to do as a board is the very first thing after you elect a chairman, you do the consent agenda. The very first item on the agenda is to approve your meeting dates and times at the September meeting. So what I have done for you by policy, the board must meet on the second, it states in board policy, must be on the second Thursday of the month. If you look at line 9. Policy 1.400, regular meetings of board shall be held on the second Thursday of the month. So the second Thursday of the month, board meets. Now, if you look at your schedule, the workshop usually is on Tuesday before the board meets on Thursday. That's by tradition. That's not in the board meeting, and that's not anywhere in board policy. It's by tradition, and we've done it on Tuesday nights. The board may elect to do it on another night. I know some boards do it an hour before the meeting, but I do not suggest that, because there are some items that may take you more than an hour to discuss. But by tradition, ours is on the Tuesday night. Now, here's what I've done. If you will look on the draft proposal, it's the schedule of dates. It looks like this. If you look at the schedule of dates, on this, I've already gone ahead and looked and found the second Thursday of the month. And gone through and looked at it. You said, well, October 8th, yeah, it's the second Thursday. I've gone through and quadruple checked them, but please check me again before Thursday night. So we don't have to go back and amend this, but I checked and rechecked, and hopefully I'm correct on those. Now, notice what happens on the workshop date in November and the regular meeting date in November. If you have your calendars, in November, the second Thursday of the month is November the 12th. Well, TSBA, in their infinite wisdom, has scheduled your meeting on November the 12th. And that's that required meeting for you to get credit utilizing the TSBA. We'll talk to Ben about that on Saturday. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But on the 12th is the Thursday, is the start of the TSBA convention. Now, what that is called the TSBA Leadership Conference. And that's on Thursday and Friday. Javen, you want to talk about that for a minute on what goes on at the leadership conference before the convention?
The entire meeting, which I guess I should have. I went to the leadership conference, and what they covered was, it's pretty interesting. They covered a lot of sports, structured stuff and how to help students, and they covered a whole bunch of safety stuff on how to make schools. I do not know what the itinerary is on the next meeting, so I can't tell you what it's going to be, but it is informative, and it's a lot of information. There are a lot of people there, so it's really hard to get one-on-one attention. Not maybe there's most of them over here, but it is very informative. I will tell you that, and it's worth going if you have time. It really is. Got a lot of new ideas and some cutting edge stuff. It's just paying for it. That's the interesting part.
And one thing too, you also are required as new board members to attend the new board member orientation. Derek, I think I've already given you a copy, and Wade has a copy, but no, ladies, I'll give you a copy. I'll run that off. I can email it to you, and I can run you a copy off to you. It has the dates where you can go. Is that 1 or 2 days, guys? I can't remember. Is that? It's a one day thing. So you can pick whatever day you want to go with that one. And this one in November will count as your elected. You got to do 2, I think, that are mandatory, or those orientation days are mandatory. Then you have to do the other can be an elected. Now, the one that we're having, and I'll use my time right here, on September the 12th, will be our County Board of Education retreat. That will be that Saturday, and I know Jennifer can't come. We've already had that scheduled, Jennifer, so I apologize if we have that scheduled. Mr. Ben Torres, Tammy Grissom was going to come to that, but Ben Torres will be the one. He's their legal counsel with TSBA. He's the second in command at TSBA now. So we've got a very good instructor. We'll start at 8 a.m. We'll have breakfast for you. We will have lunch for you. And if we work through lunch, we'll probably get out by 2 o'clock. So if you work through lunch, and Jennifer, I'm gonna see if we can't get that video. Mr. Cofer can show me how to turn the video on. Or we'll do a Zoom or whatever. You'll have an invite.
Okay.
And then we can do that, and then you can go back and view that at your will.
Thank you.
So I hope you'll do that. So that's on September the 12th.
If she were to do that, do you think they would allow her to get married?
Don't know. We'll ask Ben.
Hopefully.
I'll call Ben tomorrow and we'll ask if we take that, if you could do that. And I'll just tell him what it is. He's the ex-Army guy, surely, helicopter guy, he'll surely let another aviator. He didn't want to do that. Especially if we zoom it and take it and then you go back through it. I think hopefully he'll let you do that. I'll plead the case now. I can't promise, but I'll plead the case. How's that? Okay, now, look at November, the November date. What I did, and I did it at my own discretion, we're going to be asked any of this, why this is a draft proposal. The 9th and the 10th. The 9th will be the workshop, and the 10th will be the regular meeting date. Now, what we've done before, we've done the workshop before we did the actual meeting. And usually the November agenda is I won't say it, Mr. Fan, but a light agenda, but I'll say that there will be some big deal we'll have to deal with. But the 9th will be the workshop on that Monday night, and then the 10th will be the actual meeting. So that way y'all can go ahead and go to the TSBA on the 12th and the 13th. And if you want to go to the TSBA convention, that's the 14th and the 15th. Right now, it's still on. I hope to ask Ben on the 12th of whether some conventions are meeting. Miss Bonnie's going to one, what is it, Bonnie, next week? That there's, the councilors are still meeting.
We moved it last year.
We did.
Me and Brian.
But y'all went on Thursday night, but I didn't get there till Friday.
To give credit, you had to be there Thursday evening, Friday morning.
Correct.
For classes, so we did move that meeting, that's what I remember.
We did, and I looked and see when we moved it, it was the 9th and the 10th, whatever that Monday and Tuesday was last year. So any questions about that? Am I good? Now, notice what happens to the workshops. In December, in January, and February, they move to Monday. Now, you get a free prize here if you can tell me why we move it to Monday. You got it. You win the prize. Derek wins the prize. I don't have the prize right now. You get an E3 math, especially approved. But seriously, that is why we move it to Monday, because Mr. Fan in previous years had a daughter to play basketball, and he had to be here some nights instead of going to her home basketball game.
We had 2 or 3 board members when we did that, at the same, Shelley Walker had the same, somebody else. I can't remember who it was.
But it was where they could go to those home basketball games. And then in Tuesday, it picks back up, and there's not a glitch on anything Tuesday and Thursday. Normally, the workshops have been at the Board of Education office in the boardroom. It's where the workshops normally take place, but because of COVID, we have moved here. So whoever's elected chairman, that's probably one of the first things you decide, where does the workshops need to be? Does that need to be here, or does it need to be back at the Board of Ed? It is warmer at the Board of Education. Okay, it is warm. All right, any questions about the schedule? If you notice any dates, please let me know. Email me or text me or say, Mr. Curtis, I plan to go on this trip for 500 years and I need to do this or that, and the board will consider that. And then what I will do with those are posted in, I go back through and follow the exact wording on this about notification of meetings. I send it to the press. I send it to the local education association, the president. I send it to the local news media. I have a big poster in the office in multiple locations, and I send a copy to each of the schools who will also have it placed in a prominent location.
You Zoom next school board meeting?
Okay, great question.
Well, because I have an issue with it.
Okay,
So I'm asking.
great question. If you go back, you can look at electronic attendance of meetings in that policy. Go down on page on number 1.400, school board meetings. Look down there at line 19 through 23. You are allowed to electronically attend, as long as we see you.
Okay.
As long as we can see you, by whatever means. Mr. Cofer, you might want to say what means we do use. We've been using Zoom recently, but we've used other things in the past too.
Seems works the best.
But Mr. Cofer would say that's Zoom. And by the way, through September the 29th, you can Zoom. We can still Zoom without these restrictions that you see on page, on their electronic attendance in line 18 down through the rest of the deal. But you can't do them all that way. Now, under COVID, you could do them all that way. But when the governor's executive order expires for electronic meetings, then you will not be allowed to do a wall, but if you go back, you revert back to this. But no, on those electronic meetings, a quorum of the board must be physically present. That means a quorum for, you have 5 members. So let me, the government teacher hat comes off for a second, and I put it back on. A quorum is a majority of those members, and you've got to have 3 people present. And we hit it a couple of times, Jacob will tell you, we hit it a couple of times where we barely got 3. So, because of different things that have happened. But we've done the skin, but you can have 3 members and still do business. If you only have 2, now at a workshop, you don't have to have a quorum. So if it's a workshop and you want to Zoom the workshop, we've been Zooming the workshops now, Brian, for how long? Since COVID, right? Since we've been Zooming the workshops and we've been recording them too. So if you need to be at a workshop in Zoom, we've had people phone in once they see the picture, and then they phone in even. And as long as we've seen and identified you, you can phone in if you had to.
Okay.
But great questions. Okay, I am sorry, but I am apologizing to Miss Bonnie. I said she was being number first. Number 1, Bonnie, I apologize. If y'all don't care, I'd like to move the safety report up. Allow Miss Bonnie to, her husband is having some health issues and she would like to get home. So Bonnie, I apologize for that if you'll come up. And the safety report, by the way, it was emailed and it is in the back of your packet. It's the very last sheet of your packet. So Bonnie, I'm not making you stay at the very last.
Thank you. A couple of things, when we did safety reports at the workshop, because anytime we talk about school safety, we can't address those things in a public meeting. We're on Zoom, and so, I decided to write it, the report, so it's in your packet. Is there any questions on anything that's listed of what we have addressed in August?
If there's a question, what we could do, Brian, can we mute the meeting if we had to?
It's good, I think.
But I think this one's pretty well routine, there's anything.
There will be a safety meeting in October. We normally have it in September, but because of the pandemic, it's really important that we bring all partners to the table. And so I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit so that I can get our community responders and everyone to come. We've had good participation in recent years. You will need to sometimes see me so I can get you or show you how to use the Navigate system, which is our school safety system that we have our safety plans has. I will send you an email that will welcome you into the system. You'll need to log in, but sometimes you may have some difficulty the first time or 2. So if you want to just come by sometime, I'll show you really quickly how to do it, or I'll send you the welcome email and you can attempt. We do a district plan, and then from that district plan, all of those drop down into schools, and then they do their own plan. Because when I first started first took this job, the safety director did everything. They did the district plan, they did school planning. But as you know, it's like in a classroom, or as a parent, if you do your kids' homework, they never get what you're trying to get across. So they do their plans from the template that we provide, and now they have ownership. Who's on the safety team, where's the reunification sites, those types of things. So we do trainings all through the year. We just did a training today. I just did new teacher training today on school safety with our new teachers, and it was a good training. So, radios, we're waiting to do the bid for bus radios, money's there, and
this time our safety grant was approved just.
very quickly. It's just because of the partnerships that we have now with the state. I'll just tell you, Brenda Morris, we bring her in. She is the head of school safety, and she will answer my phone calls on the drop of the hat. And I appreciate that because she's a very busy lady.
Brenda was formerly with TEMA and is now with the Department of Education, so those lines of communication are really, really good between Tima and the department.
There was one thing I did not add, because I just remembered it. We are ordering COVID supplies monthly through FEMA. The principals all have a link. They order for their individual schools, every teacher, every classroom, every adult in the building has their own personal supplies. And then we order from central office. I have that link. If it was not for Tina, I don't know where we would be at right now, as far as supplies. They have gone above and beyond, and Roy Sullivan has gone above and beyond. He brought supplies today for us, so we're very fortunate to have that, relationship there. So,
Roy is the EMA director for Camden
yes,
County.
sorry.
He's the EMA director, and he is helping us do these bus radios, because we got a bid that was enormous, about double of what the money that we had. And Roy is, because of his connections and working with us, we're gonna get our bus radios in there for half the price that company had, because of Roy.
The AED training that's listed, that's actually for all schools. We do that every year, and we're just waiting on Vanderbilt. They come and partner with us, and we're waiting for them to come and schedule the time to do that. So we have already had a training, but this is a training for central office, because we have a new AED for central office. All right.
And I'm thankful for that.
We're all moving. Any questions on that?
How many of those we have in place?
Sir?
How many of those we have in place?
We have one in every school. Auburn has two because of the gym. State law says an AED must be placed in a gym, the first one. And because they have an auxiliary building, we felt like we needed a device in the building. Because if someone had an event in the school, they would have to run out to the gym to get it. We also have two at the high school, plus an additional one for athletics that we just purchased. And then every other school has one. We were fortunate, we wrote a grant, to get all the schools with AEDs about 3 years ago through the hospital. And then we've been able to use some safety grant money to purchase the others as we go along. We keep, you have to, get batteries every year, the pads have to be replaced, so that's kind of pricey. So we really tried to watch our number of devices, because our budget, Fort Hays School Health cannot, we cannot use any of that funding for AEDs. I don't know why, but it's just in the law.
Talk about the partnership that we got the donation of AEDs.
That's right, sorry. The Sheriff's Department in Rutherford County, they had bought a massive amount of AEDs to have an AED in every squad car. They ran into the problem of trying to keep those AEDs current. You can think about how many squad cars they have. So they decided to eliminate some of those AEDs. Very good quality. I talked to a lady out of Georgia who recertifies AEDs, and she said, if you get your hands on those, get them. We took two because of just keeping the batteries and pads. That's all I could afford for us on our budget. So we have those two, and we're getting ready to put those in service. And so I'll get with Nurse Leslie and let her make the determination of where she feels like those need to go. Because she's over all things health, as it comes to nurses and that kind of thing.
Is every teacher trained on those?
Yes.
Or every staff member, or just?
Well, we have a team.
Okay.
And yes, every school, every student goes through AED and CPR training every year. So
You said students too?
it's not hands-on, it's that whole.
That was gonna be my next question, if any of the students knew how to use them.
No. They know where to go, where to get.
They don't know what to do with it.
No, because we have an emergency team.
Okay.
That does that.
You said athletic. What did you mean by that?
Do
Well,
what?
where would that would be? You said you have one for athletic.
Athletics, we've had one for a long time that, the athletic trainer takes with them, football field, that type of thing, but we have an additional one because we have multiple sports going on at the same time. So that's why we got the additional.
Okay, that's gonna be my question. I just heard a story recently that football players' life was saved by one on football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's, when we go through the training through Project Adam, it's, Miss Angel that does it. It's pretty sobering, the video that she shows. And we do that, all staff, it's just law that you have to go through training every year with all your staff. And also with students, but no, they do not use the AED. They know where it's at and they know what to do.
Okay.
But an adult would do the AED. Anything else?
Any additional questions for Ms. Bonnie? Great safety report, you get those every month. Ms. Bonnie will have those for you, sometimes written, sometimes, in talking to us. Thank you, Ms. Bonnie.
I do have homeschool numbers, if you need
Well, you want to go ahead and talk about that real quick? Bonnie's, also is one of her many hats she wears. She is, the homeschool coordinator, and this is for homeschool. And so, that's different than homebound. Homebound is there's a medical situation that they're having to be, out of school, and we continue to service them. Ms. Julie Benson is over the homebound. With homeschool is those that are completely homeschooled by parents or umbrella organizations. So,
Okay, so you have to remember that we're just at Labor Day, and a lot of our umbrella schools and church-related schools have not reported yet. They have 15 days after their start date to report, and some have not started till after Labor Day. So these are raw numbers, but what I did was I just put a total amount of where we were, where we're at right now. It is at 184 students. That is including independent and all your different categories of homeschool. Umbrella, church-related, category 2, which is in-house brick and mortar school, that type of thing. Last year, at the end of the year, we had 207. So we're already up to 184. And I have not had my heavy hitters report yet. My bigger schools that tend to report. I will tell you that I always base my homeschool numbers on my independent numbers, because independent is where a parent just comes in, fills out a form, brings me a diploma, and says, I'm teaching my kid. And usually those numbers are low. Last year at this time, we had 27. We had 41 at the end of the year. This year already we're at 49. I'm averaging about 2 a day.
That's 49 more than that at this point in time.
We have 49 as of right now. Last year, we had 41 all year.
and then this time last year, Bonnie, what was that number, 27?
27.
27,
On this
so
day
we're
last
already
year.
20 up. So that means that we're already 20 up what we were this point last year with independent.
So that's just give you a heads up on where we are with those students that are leaving our system right now. And I'll be glad anytime if you want to come in, I can explain the whole homeschool categories, all of that. It's challenging when you get into that. That's not counting virtual school, not our virtual. I'm talking the Tennessee Connection Academy, those that get on TV and say, we'll give you a computer, all this stuff. I haven't heard from them. That's not counting those students, because they're not considered homeschool. They're considered public school, because they're taking our money. And we haven't even heard from them yet. They're so backlogged. So, we'll see. I'm dealing with parents every day, trying to find out where they're at. A lot of them are saying, I'm homeschooling, and they haven't produced anything, so I'm chasing them down. It's a task right now, trying to figure out where everybody's at. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
All right, any other questions for Bonnie? Thank you, Ms. Bonnie, appreciate you all the best. Okay, go to item number 5, policy recommendation regarding cheerleading being classified as sport and allowing homeschool students to participate. Now, on this issue, we've had a student that was previously, she was on the team, had been approved on the Kankakee High School team, and then she is now being homeschooled. And this parent, Miss Esther Bobo, is the parent with her daughter, and who is a high school sophomore. And she's desiring her to continue to remain on the team. Now, in my research, I went back through and looked, Bonnie helped me on that a little bit too. So what I did, I sent an email to our some legal folks that I knew, Mr. Jennings, Mr. Michael R. Jennings, our school board attorney, Mr. Chuck Cagle, longtime attorney for TOS, the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendent, who I am a member of. And then I sent it to TSBA, their two legal analysts, Ms. Jennifer White and Ms. Emily Warren, regarding this issue. Here's what I found out. I learned some things. TSSAA is like any homeschooler, if they want to play sports, there are certain regulations by TSSAA that they must follow. I think most of us are familiar. I know Aletha probably told me a lot more about it too, being a coach, and Layton, for all of us could probably talk about that. That has been approved, and there are certain things that they must do to go through and be a participant. Number one, the August 1st deadline, they have to tell Ms. Bonnie that they have the intent to homeschool. Number one. Number two, by August 15th, talk to the principal of the member school in which the homeschool athlete wishes to try out and possibly participate. And then the homeschool athlete must meet the same academic and standard content standards required. You can see the rules. I put about what I did. You should see it says homeschool rule and participation sheet that I've got for you in your packet from TSBA. So you've got the TSBA rules in front of you. What we found out, our AD, Mr. Matt Cagle, and our principal, Mr. Courtney Nichols of Kankakee High School, checked with the TSSAA. And I assumed that it was a sport. Well, guess what? Cheerleading is an activity, quote unquote, not a sport. So that puts us in the same situation as our elementary basketball program. Many years ago, the board went on record to say if a homeschooler who wanted to participate, let's say in elementary basketball or middle school football, or you can name the sport. And the board went on record to say, yes, they can participate with the same rules as TSSAA. Now, the problem with that is that our small schools are not members of the middle school thing. That's like TSSAA, the MSSA, I guess. We're not a member of that because we don't have one single school. If we wanted to do that, all 6 elementaries would have to be member paying dues, which would cost them, I don't know, what, $200 and something, I think, is that right? Something like that. So they would have to pay that. Our school said, and then it went up to absorbent amount, large amounts. They said, we don't think we want to do that. And I think it's even more than that, because I think it's 200 and it went up, and then maybe it's 500 or 600 or something now. So we elected not to do that. So so you've got an indemnity agreement that the athlete signs that names TSBA as the one basically who's the insurer if something were to happen during sports. So the previous administration went back through and said, okay, on our middle grade sports programs, whether it's elementary basketball or whatever, then you need to get your own insurance policy. As you usually do that as part of your homeowners, and you can get an additional policy. It's like we did for the elementary grades for homeschool. So we've done that. As far as I know, only Ms. Josie Sear representing principals tonight, and there's probably principals on, Brian, a bunch of principals are probably online. They can probably tell me more about this. But I don't know how many homeschoolers have participated in elementary basketball or, middle grades football, middle grades basketball. But what we've asked them to do, if they're a homeschooler situation, in that situation, is they purchase a separate liability policy, and then they're allowed to participate in middle grades sports. Now, I said all that to say this. In the homeschool situation here, I would strongly suggest, and you've read what the attorney has said there from TSBA, and then I've spoken with Mr. Jennings, our own school attorney, board attorney, and he's recommended the same, saying if you do this, make sure that you do that they have to purchase the $1 million liability policy. Because our insurance will cover, yes, because it's on our property, just like it would anybody on our property. But beyond that, our insurance would not cover that since they're not a student in our schools. So if they're not a student in our schools, then they would have to have that extra liability insurance policy as done by previous administrations and previous boards have allowed that to happen. So that would be my recommendation, that to allow homeschool students to participate in cheerleading as a sport per all TSSAA guidelines, including the purchase of an insurance policy identical to the elementary school homeschool athletes for $1 million in coverage. Is what I would suggest as the board, or just not allowed in. It's not a sport, that's correct. It's an activity. And so,
Can I say something?
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
When I started the track team here at high school, and these are grade school kids and high schoolers using firearms. So I didn't know what I was going to run into when I first came to you guys and asked to have that team. It turns out it's one of the safest sports in the United States. But what did happen is I had homeschool schools that participated in high school, and they had to get the policy. Even though I had $3 million liability insurance on there separate, still they didn't get that policy to participate. So this has already been before not us, but
The previous board.
was a board in the past. So I don't know, we have to designate the sport, it's just, I'm all for them coming and participating. I've mulled over this all weekend about this, and did some research myself. The AMA actually tried to make this, they wanted this to be a sport. And I'll tell you why they said that is because they wanted the safety part of it. And that's what we all should be concerned too. And I haven't heard anything about how the safety is set up for cheerleading. I don't know if we have math. I don't know who's been training, who hadn't. That's something y'all can discuss down the road, but most organizations do not consider it sport. NCAA, High School Association of members do not recognize it. But if we could just say, let's let them participate, but they should have their liability insurance.
I would like to say something real fast. I told him with Molly Mervin today, who is the high school,
And I think she may be on with Mr. Nichols there at soccer game.
but I did.
I'm here.
Oh, she's on Zoom. But I did check in with her today. She has done, correct me if I'm wrong, Holly, you have done the safety courses, correct?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Aletha?
When we spoke earlier today, you have done the safety courses, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I have. And we have mats, and I mean, all of that is in place that we have to abide by those safety guidelines.
So Holly has been to those and taken those courses.
Do you think we can get Mr. Jennings to draw a separate contract ensuring that, the insurance is on there, and that if anything
Right.
happens above what that insurance will cover, then
It's covered, it's on there.
that's right.
Anybody have any objections to that? I'll be glad to have Mr. Jennings draw up a activity, but we could call it in the sport, an activity per TSSAA guidelines, that's our guide. Would that be appropriate for the board? And I'll have Mr. Jennings to see if he can do that between now and Thursday and bring that back to you on Thursday, is that? Because that's me too, I don't want to limit anybody, especially with the COVID environment that we're in, to limit anybody who wants to go to homeschool or distance learning. I talked to the mother regarding distance learning, if they wanted to go homeschool, and that's their decision, that's their right to do that. But I don't want to penalize the student either, that wanted to be on the right to be on that squad. And we do it for athletes, and that's my opinion as director. Any other discussion on that? Ms. Holly, anything else that I missed? Ms. Holly, do y'all do the competitions beyond camp in the summer? Do y'all do any kind of competitions otherwise for the girls on the high school team?
We are starting competitions this year. It's the first time I think they've ever done it. And so there are some through TSSAA, and then there are some that are through like UCA. So there are some that we're looking at going to. And so for TSSAA for competitions, you just have to be a member of the team to be able to participate. So as long as whoever it is approved by the board and by the school, then they can do competitions with us.
So TSSAA is actually doing a competition that's not a sport, is that correct?
That is weirdly correct, yes.
Well, that answered a lot of my questions right there, Ms. Holly.
Got two cheer mom.
Yes, it is a double-edged sword, and it's a very strange situation.
Well, I think what I read, to clarify that, what I would prove it as a sport is because it's not enough regular competition. Now, this event that she's talking about, I know one of them at MTSU is one time a year. So I don't think any of us want to see our cheerleaders get into a competitive competitional thing where they're going every week and, doing something, competing against other students, because what's going to happen is going to take away from their time.
Right.
What the original activity was created for was to support the athletic teams that they support. So I think that's all the cheerleading organization I read about. They were really upset that AMA was trying to make it a sport, but they thought it would kill the sport, the cheerleading programs around the country, especially college. The college is definitely not. So I think we're on the right track, just letting them do it. Let me ask you a real short question. Do we allow homeschoolers to be in other clubs on campus?
That has never came up as far as I know of. Some principals may unlike on that. Thank you, Ms. Holly. Let Holly go. I know she's probably cheering on her soccer team. Her and Mr. Nichols are at that event.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. All right, and so, all right, some principals, elementary principals, and Mr. Nichols, if you would unmic. The question is, have we had any homeschoolers do any other activity like that? So go ahead, if whoever's unmicing there, go ahead.
At this time, yes, sir. I've not had anybody to participate in clubs that are homeschoolers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nichols. From the high school perspective, any elementary principal want to chime in about any other homeschooler coming into your building for a club or something like that?
Mr. Curtis, this is Karen King.
Correct.
I don't think they're approved for clubs. I think that we did not approve them for clubs, but I have had two that came in and played basketball that were homeschoolers and had absolutely no issues with that at all. They were very respectful. They did everything we asked them to do. They were not behavior problems. So I've had a very positive experience with that at Westside.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. All right, any other questions?
Mr. Curtis?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Miss Cost.
What
This is Angela Costi. We do not have any homeschoolers that participate in any of our school basketball or clubs, either one.
I do know that 4-H offers homeschoolers an option, but they have to go to the 4-H office and do the homeschool, do the thing at the 4-H office. I do know that for homeschoolers. Okay, any other principal want to chime in? All right, I hope that answers your question, Mr. McMackins, in regard to school participation. I'm surprised too, because, you know, the floodgate could possibly be coming open for, you know, as Bonnie says, those numbers continue to go up, and they'll say, okay, can I be in this activity or that activity or prom or something else? And, you know, I would hold my ground on that because we are public, we are in public school, and we have a virtual school option now.
I don't want to, rain on anybody's parade, but if you're homeschooling, keep them away from COVID. And then you allow them to come into a, you know, a gymnasium or around the open.
Right.
I think that's kind of a big.
It does. And especially if you're distance learning, now there's a difference between distance learning and homeschooling. I think everybody knows that. Our distance learning program allows, we've been able, but there are some systems that if you're distance learning, you do not participate in athletics. And there's been some students on that because you allow homeschoolers to do it, TSSAA, but then you're not allowing your own students that are distance learning not to. So there was some threatening suits, and I know some boards went back and changed their position on that because of those, you know, those suits that came up. So I wanted to avoid that. That's one of the pitfalls when we were a little bit slow out of the gate compared to our others. We were trying to learn from our others and see what happened as we came out of the gate for our reopening plan. We went back and looked at that diligently. Okay, anything else on item number 5? Okay, item number 6, Ms. Dr. Marsha Melton will address the board concerning a revised report card for first graders, and this was done by first grade teachers, correct, Dr. Melton?
That is correct. My name is Josie Sidlam here today. She's representing the first grade teachers. They've been actually working since last year on a new standards-based report card. For those of you that are new, we have a new reading ELA curriculum this year. And once we started looking at curriculum last year and trying to choose the very best one for our Kenny County students, our first grade teachers really realized that they needed to do a little bit of updating on it. And so report cards have to have board approval. I'll go ahead and tell you that our kindergarten teachers, last year we started using a program called ESGI. Let the teachers go in there and report instantly. They would like to continue using that, so we're not making any action on that. We did last year. Second grade through high school use the electronic report card system through Skype. So we used to have a standards-based report card, and when you look at it, probably you see lots of things there, but that can really tell a teacher and the parents exactly where a child is struggling. Excuse me, or where a child has some mastery. So we just went ahead and updated that and the other curriculum areas too at that time and made them reflect our pacing right. Ms. Josie was a very active member of the committee and sort of led that. She leads our PLC groups. She's one of our teacher leaders. Lisa Vickers is sort of our technology person. She put it in this beautiful format that you see. We've had several PLC groups meet, and all first grade teachers have been able to see it. They've been able to provide feedback, and this was the final product coming to you.
Okay, questions for Dr. Melton or Ms. Josie?
Listen, I just want to know how long it takes to get that, but it wouldn't matter if it was this report card or another one. I always spend too much time. I mean, but I'm very thorough. Every report card is a very long note. And I will tell you, some districts that have adopted this new curriculum that we're using, they have done a standards-based report card K through 5. It sort of goes in cycles with districts. Districts either like it or they don't. Excuse me. So this is not unlike, I should have brought you a copy already. Mr. Van on Thursday night, if you'd like,
I've already looked at it 2 or 3 times, I'm just overwhelmed.
report
This
card, it
much
looks
for
very
first grade.
similar.
This is a lot.
It is a lot, and some of, I think there might be some areas that are stated maybe, because some of these skills you're not gonna get to every 9 weeks. So that's one thing that we already are aware of as educators. We know what we're gonna be
Okay, any questions? I have one question. Can this be, if the board approves this, can this be converted into electronic form for Skyward?
We're working on that. Lisa and I, we talked about whether or not we could just upload it, scan it and do it as a PDF and then it could be in there. But even our first grade teachers felt strongly that they, normally when we do a standardization report card, I take the staple somewhere and get it printed, but they don't want that. They want to be able to do it each time and just print it off.
And so the teacher theoretically could go ahead and scan that, and a parent could get that to wherever you have divorced parents or parents that are deployed military or something like that, where you want an electronic copy, then we're gonna try to put it on electronic copy.
Lisa, yeah, I think Lisa and I talked about that, looking into that.
And that just means that when the teacher finished that, putting what they were gonna put down, that they scan it in their scanner in the room and then turn right around and upload it into Skyward. And have the secretary save it in the PDF and just attach it as part of that. I think it's even better.
So I keep talking about Ms. Black, Lisa, Ms. Black, she's our Skyward student data management person, so I'm very excited for that.
Okay, any additional questions about the first grade report card? Okay, we'll move to number 7. Approve audit bids. Now, we are audited multiple ways, and you learned that as a board member by the state of Tennessee. What this audit does is for the schools, the school individual amounts that the individual schools do. So, principals, I do have a bad announcement. Mr. John Young, who has done it for many, many years, is not doing it any longer. So, we will have a new auditor this time, and this is for the activity funds that schools utilize outside of what we do as a school system. So this is outside of what we do as a school system, and each individual school has accounts that they use from their Harvest Festival funds or their whatever fundraising funds that they do. And this is another way to, that the state says that you're going to be audited in your books, and your books are turned in every summer. And then they have a deadline, and those books are turned in, and the auditor goes through that, utilizing the state guidelines for audits, the uniform manual of audits. So teachers, principals, I hope I didn't massacre that too bad. So if you'd like to unmute and if there's any questions about these audit bids. There are 2 audit bids. If you look in Douglas's packet there that he sent you, he sent it to, a bunch of those. This last page is the ones that he sent it to. And we got 2 bids back. One from Matlock Clements, CPA, for $9,000. And Tamara L. Beckman, CPA, for $8,500. Now, the bid for 2019-2020 was $6,500. And Douglas will tell you we didn't budget that. We budgeted that about that same amount. So we will have to get that funding. Should the low bid of $8,500 be approved, we'll have to find $2,000 somewhere else and put in that fund for the audit. But John B. Young, unfortunately, decided to retire from that type of audit, and he is no longer going to be doing it. So we had to farm it out and look, and these 2 ones came back at $9,000 from Matlock Clements and Tamara Beckman, CPA, for $8,500. And you can see Tamara Beckman's credentials. She's out of Smithville, and you can see her credentials there. And then Matlock Clements, you can see his letter on the page afterwards in request for his bids and his background.
So this covers all the Harvest Festival monies and
That's correct. The Uniform State Manual is utilized, going up there, making sure all that is audited and all of those individual school accounts. So probably what we should have said there instead of just audit bids is individual school audit bids. Just like this is for.
We got that out last year.
Correct, you did, you get a nice, either one, Mr. Clements or Ms. Beckman will do and submit to you a report. And that report also has to be submitted to the Tennessee Department of Education and also the Comptroller's Office. Okay, principals, you may want to Mike and talk about your bid process, your audit process, excuse me. But let's talk about audits, okay? That probably tells you, really, your auditor is your friend when you're trying to, if something goes awry, your auditor is your friend, and you don't want any findings. And in the past, there's not been that huge critical findings that any school has had over the past several years. I used to have to do them when I was a principal, and they're not any fun, but once you get them back and you don't have any findings, you celebrate. Ms. Vincent, I want to say something to your former principal.
It's definitely, it's a process, people put everything together, you take it, they go through it, and then they bring the administration in and sit down and go through everything, and then they have a couple questions, but it wasn't a bad experience.
So we've been very fortunate the last few years not to have any major findings. For the good work. The principals I'm writing on you right now, the good work of the principals not have any findings. So it is meticulous on those, that the uniform code your uniform accounting manual that you have to go by. It is tedious, but it needs to be tedious when you're doing finances. It needs to be tedious.
Hey, Mr. Curtis, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead. Ms. Melinda, correct?
It's Connie Foster.
Okay, Connie, sorry, Connie, you said like Melinda there. Go ahead, Connie.
I'll take that as a compliment. Hey, do either of those two choices have experience auditing schools?
Yes, both do.
Thank you.
Ms. Beckman and Mr. Clements, Ms. Matlock Clements, certified public attorneys, they do, and they have references, both do. Good question, John. Okay, anything else? And that's very important because school finance is certainly different than regular. You just can't get your regular old CPA to come in and do it. He has to go through certain different procedures with the Comptroller's Office to be approved to do this. Okay, questions? All right, you have those bids. All right, now probably one that's going to take longer than 10 minutes on the discussion. It is distance learning discussion. And you heard Bonnie's comments there about homeschooling. And principals, I want you to unmic on this one because there are several things going on with distance learning. Here's what I did put in your packet, board members. I did put in your packet a copy of the PowerPoint that Mr. Nichols and his team did at the high school in regarding some really interesting findings. I'll use that word. Astounding was, to me, was one of those findings when I looked at that. So you can see what's going on or what's not going on would probably lead to better terminology about distance learning. And let me kind of rephrase for everybody. I think everybody's going to talk about this a little bit, but let me talk just for a second on this. Is that you've got your distance learners that are asynchronous, meaning, or that are synchronous, that are synchronous, that are doing it very, very well. They're zooming into or Google Meeting into their classes every day. And they're staying there when the principal dismisses them, or I'm sorry, the teacher dismisses them for a lunch break. They're back after lunch. They're there every time that screen is available, they're on and they're working. Those are what I call my DLs, distance learners, and they're doing it well synchronously. Then you have your asynchronous learners. Okay. Your asynchronous learners are your learners there that are inactive. And you can see the chart that was done on the bottom of page 1 on the PowerPoint slides. These are your ones that are asynchronous, and I don't want to use language like I'm about to use, but I'm going to use it because when a parent signed up for distance learning, they told us 2 things. And Lisa Black may unmute there, Lisa, if you want to. And there were 2 questions there. Number 1, you have reliable internet. Number 2, you have devices for each of your children to utilize. Well, folks, there are 9 devils out there. I don't mean to be mean and ugly, as Ms. Cox used to say, but I'm going to be mean and ugly here for a minute, is because you got those that will tell you whatever. Oh, yeah, we got great internet. We got great internet, and we've got laptops, so I've got laptops, or I've got a computer for every one of my 6 kids. Wrong. They didn't have devices, and they didn't have reliable internet. Now, what we've done, thank you, Mr. Kofer, what we've done, Mr. Kofer and his team, we received a part of the CARES Act funding that we got. We spent several $1,000s to enable every school, including this one where we're at right now, at Woodbury Grammar. You can pull into the parking lot and get free, reliable internet service. Okay, Brian, you want to talk about that just for a second?
We did it. It works.
You did it, and you did it within how long did you say, once we got the money? How long did we have it in service from that point?
We ordered it in July and it was installed early August.
And that's ordering the materials, getting all of that, contracting that out to get those devices installed where it could occur, correct?
Right. A lot of the equipment was forecasting lead times of 3 months away. So we were very lucky to get the equipment first of all, and then to get cabling crews out second of all, and then get it configured by ourselves. So a lot came together in a short amount of time.
So basically within a couple of weeks, you had everything ordered in line and installed within, I'm trying to help you around here, maybe 3 weeks.
I would say 4 weeks.
Okay.
Start to finish.
That's not bad, getting a grant and then having to wait for your money, get your money, and then getting it done. I thought it was incredible work. Knowing how some things are delayed, like if you ordered a laptop right now, it would be, what, February before you could get it. So these guys were very, very hard and got it done. And so kudos to them. But that is available for our asynchronous learners to pull in theory, download what they need for that amount of time, for a week or whatever amount of time that's down there for their Google Classroom, and then download it and do it. And get it done, and they can download it, and that's been a challenge too, for them to download, because it downloaded in PDF, and then it's not fillable. We've worked through some things there. But kudos to our teachers who are literally busting their tails to get this done. And they're working very, very, very hard, because you basically got your crew. You got your kid that's there all the time, every day, got his computer ready to roll. Then you've got your others that are maybe kind of sort of zooming in or Googling in every now and then. And then you've got your asynchronous learners that are maybe kind of sort of sending something in. Marcia, am I correct in that? Am I correct in that right there? Okay. Principals, I want you to unmic if you would.
Let me ask you something.
And tell the board a little bit about, okay, Mr. Fan, sorry.
Before we go into that, Ms. Patterson's already left. We don't know what the judge is gonna say. So we really, at this point, have no way of enforcing anything. Am I right or wrong on that?
Unfortunately, Mr. Fan, you're partially right and partially not. Okay, here's the deal. The truancy laws are still on the books. And the truancy laws are the truancy laws, that student, if they're not logging into their classes, they're going to be counted absent. Because they're not there. Now, the problem is, well, if you're asynchronous, that becomes the problem. And that is where, Dr. Wilson, help me out here, on assignments turned in.
So we have a lag day, 1 day, because they may be working in the county, but anytime they're not logging in a systematic fashion, and we have that in our continuous learning plan, then if they haven't logged in within a certain amount of time, that lag day, that evening, they don't just get to work on it on the weekend or whenever they want to. We should start our regular attendance, policies and go through the, tiers. Ms. Monty would be able to talk to you about if she were here, as if they were face-to-face students.
I mean, I guess I'm in the old school. You do the work, you do it correctly, you pass. You don't do the work, you don't turn it in, you get it out, you fail.
Exactly. And Mr. Nichols, if you want to unmic, you might want to talk about the high school and when we get to the elementary level about that. And there are some astounding things in this report, you know, and I think everybody's taking the time to look at that. I am flabbergasted, and here's one of the reasons, and Courtney he can unmute there and talk to us a little bit about that. But what is crazy to me is you look at the 9th graders, there are 24 total distance learners in 9th grade. Of the 24, 17 are taking more than one class. One or more classes. That is astounding. That nothing is taking place. In fact, those students are just pretty well not doing anything out of 9th graders, it looks like. So we're going to have to put some teeth into the enforcement of our distance learning program. And it's not just us. Y'all probably heard on the news, Metro is Rutherford County. These big student systems they're encountering the same exact problem we are. We're on a smaller scale, but we're encountering the same problems they are in distance learning. It's not work, if it's done with fidelity like anything else, it's working great. But if it's not, our teachers are working, they're just working themselves to death, and then the students aren't doing anything. Now this is in my professional opinion, they're just not. And so, Mr. Nichols, if you would unmic, would you make a comment in regard to, it's just not happening? Is that to be the summary I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And like you stated, it's not just a Cannon County problem. This is a, statewide problem. I talked with you earlier, and you said that they were facing the same issue in the Upper Cumberland, all across Upper Cumberland and across the state. It's not just us. So I don't want you to think that the board to think that it's not just our teachers or just our students. But this is alarming, and we have nothing to hold over these students for them not doing this. And my teachers are working themselves to death at this point, and we just have, like I said, these numbers are astounding to look at and see them that they're not doing it. The older kids, that seems like it's a little bit better. Your juniors, seniors seem to be handling this. My major concern are what are we going to do if this group of freshmen fail? I don't have capacity in my schedule for next year to accommodate for all these failures. So that's going to be a major issue that we're going to be facing. We need something that has teeth in it. I don't know if it's possibly making it to where if you're not passing at the end of this first 9 weeks, you kick them off distance learning and send them back into the school, because obviously they're just not doing the work. I know that when they're not doing work at the high school, we've even gone as far as putting them in academic alternative school, which is a opportunity for them to get caught up on their work. Those are some of the options we've done. We have what's known as pause time. We now call it instructional focus time, but it was the same as Paul's time, where we would just mandate them going to those teachers' classrooms that they were failing, and so that they could make up their work. Now these distance learners, I have nothing, and just being point blank about that, I have nothing that I can hold over them or push them to do their academics at this point.
Or if they were failing in an on-campus situation, you would be knowing that immediately and making immediate ramifications for them, correct, Mr. Lucas?
Absolutely. We've set up a now to where it's, we could put them in an instructional focus time, which would be 25 minutes each day, that we could target those classes that they're failing and make them go to that have remediation. I have nothing for these distance learners. I'm at a loss. I don't know what I can do to I don't want to say punish, but I don't want to know what to do to motivate them, to get them to pass at this point. We're making phone calls to parents. We are logging that. It's just some of these kids are just not motivated.
Okay, Dr. Melton was going to say something. Go ahead, Dr. Melton.
Well, two things. Lisa, I asked Lisa, and she's working on it, just to run the numbers. What are their failure rates percentages for all the students? Because we need to flag them all. But as Mr. Courtney said, Mr. Nichols said, we've got that instructional focus. Are we offering instructional focus time to our distance learners too?
And I was kind of thinking the same thing too.
Absolutely. I mean, we have that same instructional focus time that they can spend that 25 minutes getting assistance on that. They're just not logging on, or if they are logging on, they're just doing the bare minimal just so that they can be counted a present, so that they don't be counted in truancy.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
I know you know who a lot of these people are, and I know you can't name them, so I'm not gonna ask you to do that, but what I do wanna ask you to think about, are some of these kids that are failing, if they were in school, would they be passing?
I would say, that's the thing, that's hard to say. I would venture to say I could come near having them passing if they were in school. Just go. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You know who they are, most of the kids.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we've identified them.
Are they capable of doing the work if they were at school?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, now, not all the freshmen. Some of these distance learners that are freshmen, I have not had an opportunity to be around yet, but a lot of your older ones, yeah, they would be able to do that.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Dr. Melton, are we keeping them, we know exactly every day how many minutes there are there, not on there?
Well, we can.
I turned the phone off, then I turned the Wi-Fi off for 2 minutes, so they go out the yard. I was trying to watch Netflix, and they kept talking.
Mr. Curtis, can Courtney mute? I can't hear Marcia.
Okay, hold on just a second. Marcia to the mic, and hold up, Karen, and I'll let Marcia talk, and then you'll be next. Okay, Dr. Melton.
I'm sorry. So Ms. Bonnie would be able to tell you that a little bit more. She's the appendix for the continuous learning plan that we submitted to the State Department takes into account that if they're turning in their work on, and logging into your computer, we can count that as a.
See, I thought I don't understand. This is something like they're going to be from the school, they're in class, they're seeing the teacher. Haven't been to a class. Am I right?
So there are some students that are doing that. I peeked in at Eastside School, and that's called live streaming. They're doing the same work just like we're doing right here. We have some people electronically, we have some people standing right here in front of us, so we're doing that at the same time. But by the same way that when this meeting is recorded on Thursday night and it gets uploaded, then the ones that weren't able to attend get to watch it later that day, which is the problem that we have, and Ryan can probably got Mr. Cooper right off the bat, is the students that don't have the internet capability to live stream at the exact same time that it's going on. So therefore, teachers are uploading the material, the videos and things like that, so that they can either pull into the parking lot, so that they can have internet access, or in a couple of cases, we just know the parents are working full time, and it's not just a high school thing. I'm sure the principals will speak to that too. You know, the parents are working all day, a grandparent staying with the child, they don't have internet, so the parents trying to do the work with them. I talked to one parent today, but that's exactly what's going on with them.
One reason I brought this up, is if we're going to like hold somebody, you know, accountable, then you've got to be able to document and say, okay, little Susie was not even home yesterday, and she went home the day before, and she's on half a day today, and this is all she's doing. But, you know what I'm saying?
That goes back to the truancy, which we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what we can and can't do.
And we've had some feelers in regard to truancy. Bonnie is working, trying to determine about what kind of teeth we're going to have, but even a judge, and I'm talking to nothing, but even a judge would say, okay, this student is not been in a single class for 6 weeks or so. Let's say forward to that for a month in, then this student has not been X amount of days, and guess what? They're true, in my estimation, that they're not doing anything on distance learning. Then I think they're true. I think a judge would see that. But I can't say that because I said, well, you know, and you know how judges are, they hear from individual parents. There is a deal. So let's go there. I'll mention this for a second. And okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Barry.
Mr. Nichols, I've got one question on the charts I've done. Are all the ones that are failing, are they failing because they're not logging on and doing the work? Or are they doing the work and failing the class because they don't have that one-on-one teacher to help them understand it?
One of them,
I guess my question are all these failing because they're not turning in their work? Or do we have some that are turning in work but are just failing because they're not understanding the curriculum?
it's a mixture of both. I can't break that down as far as the percentage, but it's a mixture of both there. I can go back and have my teachers kind of look at this. We can look at this data here and break that down for you a little bit more if you like.
And one thing you can see though, here, Mr. Mullins, is look at your inactive versus inactive. That would kind of tell you that if they're inactive, that may not even log it in. And so that could probably help you take those. If you got those 121 total students, 63 have not responded to contact or fail or are failing. So they're just inactive. They're just not doing it. So that can probably help you there. Response, and also, you know, you can look at those active learners. If you look at the chart on the bottom of page 2, there are 24 distance learners in the 9th grade. 17 are failing, you know, they're inactive, they're not even doing it. I think they're saying they're at the high school, but they're really not at the high school. In my estimation.
And I agree with what we're saying. I'm just
sure. But that's exactly right. They're not doing the work, or they're failing the work that they're getting is the quality of the work that they're getting. I think looking at Mr. Nichols, looking at lesson plans and other things that we can monitor this teacher, I think there is available. Where is my going? Get the availability. At least working out in my Mr. Nichols and I summarizing that correctly. So you still might go.
I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I'm trying to be safe as I'm doing this. So.
But no, what Derek as far as saying is that they're just the availability that's out there, but they're just not taking advantage of it, especially those freshmen. Am I saying that right? Because it looks like they're only, you know, that 62% Well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get back to the math there. And 71% of those freshmen are just not, they're inactive, they're just not even turning in to the Google Meet, is that correct?
That is correct. The inactive, they're just not logging on, period. They're just not doing anything.
So it's not the quality of the instruction that really is the issue. It is, they're just not doing it. And to put it bluntly, on those ninth graders. And to be, you know, when should you go up, the 12th graders are, you get more of them, you at least got 68% of them that are active, and only nine are failing one of the classes. So I think they're taking it more serious than the 12th graders taking it more seriously than the freshmen.
Do we have any idea of this groups of failures don't have internet connection? Do we know what that group, I mean, that number?
Mr. Nichols, have y'all done anything at the high school to determine that some of these inactive ones just don't have internet? I know most of them have phones and are doing it and can do it via.
From my understanding that when they signed up for this internet agreement or this distance learning, that they all approved that they had internet access. Now, we all know that that's not probably accurate, but from that aspect, I feel like a lot of them do have the internet access. I mean, you can kind of see a lot of these kids are just, it's one or two classes that they're not doing anything.
The easy classes, they quote easy, unquote, they're going to
That's the classes that they are, I guess I want to say, quote unquote, participating in, are the ones that they feel like they can just, I don't want to say breeze through. Nothing's just super easy, but just, I guess that they're just not participating in my English and math classes like they need to be.
Okay. All right, any additional questions from Mr. Nichols? Okay, thank you. Now we go to the elementary grades. Ms. Karen, you wanted to unmic there for a second. Board members, you will see in your packet an email from Ms. Sabrina Wade, which I think most of y'all got. I did print that out for you. I think it was a very articulated, well email in regard to what's going on in the middle grades and what she does, and gave you a good synopsis of that. But Ms. Karen, go ahead and your comments regarding distance learning at Westside.
Well, first of all, I would like to just give a shout out to my teachers who have learned how to do a whole lot in a little bit of time, and they are doing some rock star work with this distance learning as well as in-person learning. So I just have to start by saying that they've learned a whole lot of things that we weren't trained to do in a little bit of time. But we have some of the opposite problems. We did have some students who were not completing work, and we did make some phone calls, and we did discuss some truancy. So whether or not that's going to come to pass, I don't know, but it did get them kicked in gear. So we've got several students who were doing nothing for 3 weeks' time who have magically gotten pretty well caught up. So those phone calls actually helped. We're having some discipline problems. I talked to 2 different teachers today and actually ended up having some neighborhood conversations that I didn't seek, but with some other teachers today. And I feel like this is an issue across the county, but I'm going to sit in on a class tomorrow because we have 2 of our distance learners who think it's real cute to make noises and get up and run around the room and interrupt the class. And so what I would like to have teeth in is how many sessions they get to do that before we turn them off. Because if they're not going to be supervised and they are not going to sit there and do what needs to be done, they are interrupting the rest of my class. And I did put some wordage in my contract about that, but I feel like I'm going to need some board backing on that for me to turn them off. One of the conversations I had with a teacher from another school just in the grocery store today was talking about she had a kid that was putting sunglasses off and on. And we've also had some issues of parents standing in the background giving them answers, and we can hear that happening. We also have some instances of work being turned in that we know for a fact the parents have done. And I mean, we have that at some point, even with in-person students doing homework and that kind of thing. But that's where we're hitting the most of ours, is just the behavior piece while they're on the computer and maybe an adult's not monitoring them. I would also like to say that my teachers, even though they're doing a great job, I had a conversation with one today who is very tired, just trying to teach the in-person and trying to do the distance learning as well, trying to keep up with not every student's turning everything in distance learning at the same time, trying to keep up with who's turned in what. I mean, there's just some things, and I know this is not perfect and it was put on us quickly, but our teachers have embraced this. I've not had one complaint as far as I don't want to do this. They have all gotten on board and tried to learn how to do it. But we've got some tired teachers out there, and I just want to say that just to take up for my teachers. They are working themselves absolutely to death.
Okay, questions from Ms. Karen?
I don't have none from Ms. Karen, but as a board, can we just shut a kid off from learning? I mean, I understand what Ms. Karen is saying completely.
Right.
If your kid was running around the classroom, disturbing the class, they could send to the principal's office or to outside the hall or however they do it nowadays. But, you know, you cannot have a kid running around in the background and the kids are gonna watch the TV more than the other teacher watching other kids, but I don't know that we can just shut off their learning. I know we could probably mute their mic, but that's not gonna stop the video.
Right. All right, Ms. Dr. Wilson. We'll get your microphone down, couple.
Brian, will this program that we're going to adopt, that class-wise, will that help us any with that kind of behavior? It's gonna give the teachers the opportunity to monitor the Chromebooks remotely. Well, I know not the behavior things, but they could probably mute, or they could probably turn the video off, or I know that's just one more thing for teachers to have to do, but.
Yeah, they'll be able to see the screens of the students, and they'll be able to control what web page the students are viewing, and they can black their screen if they need to. I don't know if mute is part of that program, but there's other ways to mute the students.
So the principals may not even know, we talked about this program as part of the technology upgrades that you were going to do, but we are on the 16th. Our tech coaches are going to come in and get training on that program. And then on September 28th, we have an in-service day, and they can roll that out to the other staff. I know that's 3 weeks away, but that's one other tool in our toolbox to help us with monitoring online.
And the students screen be blacked out, like they can still see the teacher and hear the teacher, and the teacher can hear them, but no one can see the student. I know in my college class on Zoom, my teacher blacked every one of us out, but we can hear her and talk to her, but she doesn't look at us.
Zoom, Jennifer, we're doing Google Meet. I'm sorry, I'm talking over somebody.
Hold up, for Karen. Brian's still saying, go ahead, Brian.
I'm pretty sure that program can do a blank screen.
I've heard a lot of instances where people can be heard in the background.
Oh, yeah, we've all heard that, where the obscenities are being heard in a classroom, from parents in the house, or something else going on in the house that they're hearing, and before they can go to mute that student, it's already reverberating into your classroom, sound system in the classroom. Okay, go ahead, yes.
How are we on this?
Yes. So our one teachers working on all the smart testing, and the distance learners are being more or less asking them to come in and do it in person, so they're setting up schedule appointment time. The older students will are able to roll that out through the Google Classroom, through the Chromebook. We have had heard from a couple of college
have had issues with parents not coming to the appointment, rescheduling appointment, not showing up. It's kind of a school by school thing going on. Overall, though, it's been very encouraging. Otherwise, at home, for different, but overall, it's been really encouraging. I know an example, I reached out to a teacher with a grammar today where she was having issues with a parent set of time, not show up, set of time, not show up. They're like, oh, we got another alternative. We can just, you can do this assessment with the Chromebook, we'll give you directions to check it, and then, we'll be at school. So, I mean, it's just kind of, we're having to reach out. I talked to, I believe it was, transportation is an issue, or work something out with them, get them at the school for the set time. It's not as widespread, I think, when the principals are experiencing daily, but it has been a robust for us.
Oh.
Right.
They realize how this is setting their learning throughout the year. And it's, some of them not showing up, some of them, you know that the parents are doing it for them, so the kids they expect it to be in regular class, with regular kids, and can't do that work, so they get no assistance. It's hurting. I just think this COVID thing, it's just not pretty. It's almost a disaster. I hate to be pessimistic.
Do we have basically a contract with these parents who have decided to do this?
Yes, they did a contract, that we approved them to do that. So yes, it is a privilege
Do we have any penalty for breaching the contract?
to do. Not, this was brand new. None of us had
I know, I just didn't know.
None of us had ever been here before.
That's why I'm asking.
If there's a breach, other systems are looking at that. And I'm trying to find out some others within the upper government. I've got a big meeting tomorrow, with the upper government directors. That's one of the questions I've got down to ask.
Looks like to me, you said, I don't have internet, you need to come back to school.
Because you
I
violated
tried
your
to
contract.
you need to come back to school. And that's just my opinion.
And then you said they're scared of COVID after that, when you talk to them, they're scared of COVID. Those flag to take it, quite a few of those stories, let's hear from other principals, be online, get out online. Principals, go ahead, Ms. Karen, you want to say something?
Can I say one more thing? I just want to piggyback on what Derek said. If I had a student in my in-person classroom that was disrupting class, I would remove them. Even if it was just for a little while, I would remove them from class. So I guess what I'm asking from the board, my contract actually says if they disrupt the learning environment, they may lose the privilege of being an online learner. But I don't have any backing with that right now. That was my contract. I added it to the one Connie had. And because I wanted them to understand, I expect them to behave online exactly the way I expect them to behave at school. So, I mean, even if it's just for that session, I would really like the backing of the board to say we have the right to remove them from distance learning just the same as I have the right to remove them from an in-person class. That's all I'm asking, even if it's for that one session.
Okay, Ms. Letha.
They are a student at the school.
Absolutely.
They may be distant, but they are a student in that classroom, and they're one first student. By all means, I think that they should be removed, just like if they were in person. They're a student.
I agree with that. Now, legalities is what we have to look at that, and find the legalities on there, but still, they're required, and Marshall, I can go with that, the legality part of that. But they're still our students, we do not utilize their equipment, how that works, and they are still our responsibility, so, yes, absolutely. And how do you do that? That's the question that the principal will have to ask. Additional weapon, I'm gonna say, additional arsenal would be the, of what can we do? That's what I'm hearing you say, is that correct, Karen? Ms. King?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was saying that you're bringing some team that give you some options that if a student is having this issue, that they can be removed from distance learning for a period.
Absolutely. And we will explore the, shutting the video piece down and even shutting their audio down where they could still hear the teacher. But I also want them to understand that's not acceptable behavior. I wouldn't allow that in person. And I just want some teeth to not have to allow that on distance learning.
What capabilities do the teachers have on this Google Classroom as, controlling? I do Microsoft Teams at work all the time. If I set up a meeting, I can mute whoever I want, or I can ask them to shut off the camera also, or we cannot see them, they can still hear us. Do we have the teacher, I don't know, inform the teachers, I understand that, that's how far it's doing, but do we have the capability of teachers muting them at least, and then when they're called on, the teacher on each other student?
Mr. Coker, you can probably answer that better probably than we'll get back with some principals and teachers on, I'll do that. Go ahead, Mr. Coker. Do we have the capability to do any of that currently? Now, with the new software, we probably will. It's what I hear.
Yeah, I mean, you can, they're using Google Meet and Google Classroom, and you can mute participants. But yeah, you can mute the student. Like
But
somebody.
they can unmute themselves.
But they can unmute themselves, who said that?
It's Melinda. It's
Okay,
Melinda.
go ahead, Melinda, your thoughts on that. Because your school is going full virtual, so you're going when no one's gone before either, so.
Yeah, the students are able to unmute themselves.
Even
Mr. Curtis.
Even if the teacher mutes the meeting, the whole classroom, they're distant learning. If the administrator has the right to mute the meeting, on the meeting, the Skype meeting, the Microsoft Teams I use, if I mute the whole, all the attendees, whether they unmute their mic or not, nobody can hear it. So I guess that's what I'm asking, do we have the capability on Google to do that? Do the teachers have the capability to do that?
Not that I'm aware of. Brian Kofer, can they? Do you know?
I'm not certain. I'm not the one using the software, but I mean, you can mute them, and they may be able to unmute, and you can kick them out.
Mr. Curtis, this is Emily Hancock at Woodbury Grammar. Okay, that's exactly what we found. We, as the teacher, was able to mute them, but they could unmute themselves. We could even blink their screen, but with Google Meet, they can still unmute. As a student, they figured out how to unmute themselves. With Zoom, it was different. Zoom, you can mute them and it's good to go. But we're trying to use it all through Google Meets, and that was what we found. Another thing that we did at Woodbury Grammar, which was a little bit different, we had the same issues that Miss Karen's having at Westside with kids in the background just misbehaving. So we gave a teacher a Chromebook and they set it in front of them, specifically staring at them. The issue we had with this is this did not distract the whole class, so that was a good thing. But as a classroom teacher, they're recording their instruction so they can later post it to their Google Classroom for the ones that were not live. If a student unmutes themselves or is making any kind of movement, it goes straight to the speaker talking, which meant that the recording was taken over basically by the student with whatever action or movement or talking they were doing. So when they were posting it to their Google Classroom, it wasn't the teacher teaching anymore, it was the student. That's one thing we found with the behaviors on Google Meets. And just I want to add to what Miss Karen said as well, and everyone knows that our teachers are working extra hard. This has been very, we've been thrown into it. We're just going with this Google Meet, learning Google Classroom, and we're having a lot of technical questions just in the office from parents calling. How do I get on Google Classroom? How do I get on Google Live? And then it's trickling down to the teachers losing instructional time because they're helping the distance learners. I'm just afraid of what's happening to our in-person kids.
And not only what's happening to our in-person kids, but what's happening to our teachers. Mine are totally discouraged and burned out, but they're not complaining. They're just doing a lot of crying, not in front of kids, not normally. But I just feel like, and I know that other counties around us, I've talked to other teachers in other counties where they have a day like that's just a distance learning day for every student, and there's no students in the building, and that gives them a day to catch up on all the distance learning. I don't know if that would be an option for us, but I mean, our teachers are struggling right now.
So I have additional comments. Thank you, Ms. Warren. Anybody would not?
And Mr. Curtis,
Yes, go ahead.
Connie Foster here. If I remember correctly, we presented an issue to the tech department in the beginning. We had a concern that students could record the sessions, and we didn't want students to have the power to record the session. We wanted to maintain control of that. And I believe Tim Davis was able to take care of that across the district for us. So it might be something the tech department could explore if we could, on the district level, figure out a way to make that to where students can't unmute themselves once the teacher has muted them. I don't know, something to look at.
I'm thinking we're probably got that down. We can find a technical way to do that. Dr. Wilson.
Well, I would say Google first. You know, Google Meet wants to keep up with this and the others, so it's in development right now. That doesn't happen today. Hopefully, they want to complete the
So that's in the works. So that's encouraging.
Mr. Curtis, will you repeat what she just said? I didn't hear her.
Said Google Meet is is in the middle of exploring that because they want to keep up with Zoom and the rest of the things that are out there on the platforms, and that they are working on a solution where if a teacher mutes you, then you're muted for that time. So
thank you.
Google is working on that. That's a powerful organization. So hopefully that's more sooner than later, more than 11 today, but hopefully that is something that can happen in the future. Because we are a Google system, and utilizing the platform that we have.
I just want to piggyback, Mr. Curtis, on what Emily just said about our in-person kids. That was a concern I had from one of my teachers today, who was one of my Rockstar teachers, who was in tears today. And she said, I just feel like I'm not doing my in-person kids justice because I'm spending so much time trying to keep these distance learners up, and they are getting a lot of messages throughout the day. And so I've just suggested that they only answer the messages like twice a day, that the parents, for them just to give the parents the expectation that they're not going to answer in real time, because that's taking time away from our in-person kids. And not that they're not all equally important. They are all equally important. It's just much easier to answer a child with your voice than it is to type out a response to something. And our students have also figured out how to chat with each other. So that's something else that we need the tech department to look at, because they are chatting off to the side instead of doing classwork. So that is something, and they have figured out, I don't even know this because I'm not this tech savvy, but somehow they can sync their cell phones with the Google Meet and text each other over the Google Meet. And so we've had to address those issues as well. They're real smart.
Absolutely. So thank you, Ms. Karen, on that, because that is something that we need to certainly look at of doing. Anything else on any other elementary principle that we need to look at? They're giving a lot of feedback, and that's what we need is your teacher's feedback on possible.
Hey, Mr. Curtis,
Yes,
this is Angela Cossey. Hey, another thing, we have had all the things that all the other principals had, same thing we have going on at Woodland. But another thing that we run into is that students share the classroom codes with others, and then they change the name, like when they're logging into some name that is not school appropriate, and then it pops up for the whole class to see. This ugly, awful name is trying to join your class. It's not a school appropriate name. So that's something else that's going on.
That was an internal issue there. It wasn't somebody external trying to do it. It was something who changed their task or their name that was visible, is that correct?
Well, but still, I mean, even if it's like one of our students has shared that, you know, they may just be making a not their student name, changing it to something that's not school appropriate, and then that shows for the rest of the class to see is trying to join your class.
And those kind of issues they can be looked at as a discipline issue, and be dealt with as a discipline issue. You wouldn't allow it in your classes. What's up here? This team are video is that you wouldn't allow a teacher or a parent to come into your school building and interrupt that class time after time after time. So it's the same thing virtually. You don't allow a parent to come in and interrupt your class time after time after time. You have office hours. That's why teachers set up office hours in Google Meets that they can meet with parents during those office hours. So that's the things that we can deal with internally that can assist you, especially with this issue. Like on that one, actually, we can find out exactly which student did that, and that student talk to the parent, say, hey, you don't lose this continues, then your student will lose their discipline privilege.
Right, and I hope that the new filtering system will allow us to be able to see who it is that is changing their name to the inappropriate school name so that we can stop that. But right now they're logging in like as a student, you know, just like trying to join the class just like a regular student would, and it pops up saying the inappropriate name is trying to join your class, so the teacher denies their request because obviously it's not one of our students. It says it's outside of our network. And she, you know, we just deny that request. However, if maybe with the filtering system, we would actually be able to see where that's coming from.
And that can be addressed by our tech guys.
But right now, we have no way of knowing where that's coming from.
Okay.
Mr. Curtis,
Ms. Joker's taking notes on that, so we're going to explore that issue.
Yes, I've sent all that to him, so.
All right.
Mr. Curtis, this is Miss Karen one more time. That's just another instance. We're going to have some guidance because you just said, you know, we could lose their right to do distance learning. We need guidance on if and when we can do that, because I would not let a kid write an ugly word on my whiteboard in my classroom either. There would be repercussions for that. So we just need some guidance because, I mean, we can't take recess away from them. I mean, because they're at home, we're very limited on what our discipline procedures are other than turning off their distance learning, which I don't want to do, but at some level that may be a have to for a day or two.
Right, but they usually lose that privilege for that particular time. And then if the parent has an objection on that, then the parent will need to be with them when they're doing their distance learning. So I would say if someone needs to be there. The problem is that students are unsupervised. I think that's major hurdles. Principals, would you agree with that? That is a major hurdle that the students all being unsupervised?
Yeah, it's mostly my middle grade kids. We're not having any trouble that I've been told about with our younger kids. Miss Josie's there. You might ask her.
Well, she has just left.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I've not heard anything about the lower grades, about discipline issues with the lower grades, except for some inappropriate language that was used in the background. I have heard that with lower grades. No. No, what I'll try to do is go back and picture a report on some of these issues, and the same thing with principals. We'll be continuing to work through that at our district leadership meetings, and we may have to call some special call meetings that we do and kind of hash this out about, and with our attorney about what legally can we do that. And then if they're not participants, like at the high school, they're not participating, they're not in class. If they're not in a government class, I can relate to that, going back to when I was a government teacher. If they're not in our class, they're not in my class too. And they can be in my class. I've written that down to a kind of panel discussion with the teachers, had some teachers and had principals on that, and principals look for that at some point next week. We'll get together and do a panel discussion via Google Meet, Mr. Comer, and we will do that, get together and hash out some of these issues that you're having, and I'll bring back to the board recommendations in regard to this one and also regarding participation. And by then, I'll ask my colleagues, the other government, that can help assist us and have been doing this a little longer than we have, what they're experiencing and what they're doing too.
We'll say that the county did it as fast as we can, but there's no way we're gonna do it Thursday.
No, we can't do that Thursday, but we can still do the process as well.
Are the students in the classroom, are they on computers as well? With the distant learners? Are they in the same need?
Sometimes at times, yes.
I didn't know if there was a way possible for teachers not show the distant learners to the classroom or only the teachers possible see them. Or to take some of that distraction away from your classrooms.
Then you lose the one.
Right. It is, I mean, you're counting down if you do take it, if you don't count, then that's part of COVID, this whole thing has put us, and just think about this, just everybody listen. Just think about where we were on March the 13th. This was not even on our radar screens on March the 13th. I know that seems like an eternity ago, but really it was less than 6 months ago that this was on our screen. I'm saying kudos to our technology folks and to our teachers and principals that we were not one-on-one with down to 6th grade until just recently. That we got down, and that wasn't even on the radar screen at all for the board to get one-on-one down from the high school, which we've been one-on-one with the high school now for several years. But we got now one-on-one down to 6th grade. That was not even, we weren't even thinking about that as a board. We kind of knocked the idea around a couple of times, but that was on the kind of a longer range plan. Now we are running. If we get some of these this other funding, we could technically be down to what, 4th and 5th, as one-on-one as early as
mid-year.
Mid-year. Wow, that's crazy, but that's what we're doing. So we're trying to look at some of these issues that normally systems take. And until COVID, virtual learning was basically you had to set up your own school that was virtual. I don't know what they're doing in Wilson, but I think Cookville is what I look at. They had set up their virtual program was a virtual school that they had, first grade teachers, second grade teachers, all the way up, and then set up their virtual program where you were just maybe it was not anything synchronous. And I think the reason we went synchronous is that we knew we had great teachers and making one system totally one school totally virtual, and we're still looking at that with our numbers that we could do some of that that are virtual as we move down the pike. In fact, they got one virtual school or one teacher per grade level that deals with those that are virtual. And that is meaning a Woodbury grammar teacher theoretically can be teaching a short high school or an East Side school or a West Side school virtually. And that's something that we're going to continue to explore as a part of that. Okay. Anything else? Principals, before I close, anything else as we move on to a couple more issues we can look at before the meeting is adjourned? Principals, any other comments? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Jennifer.
My question is, do the distant learners have the same, do they have to turn their work and stuff in the same time deadline as the students that are in person? And if they don't, why not?
Mr. Curtis, I can speak to that, or Jennifer, if you can hear me. This is Karen. Can you hear me? Yeah, we have a day lag time. So if it's due, like the regular in-person kids do it on Tuesday, there would be a lag time of Wednesday, and it would be expected to be turned in by Thursday morning. That is for our kids that may be asynchronous, or for whatever reason, they may have a question for the teacher that doesn't get answered right away. That gives them time if they have to come to a parking lot at nighttime and watch the recordings and download the work that needs to be done. Maybe they have to download it, then they go home and do it, and then they have to turn it back in because it has to be scanned. A lot of it does. So we give them a day's lag time, and I think Marcia may have spoke to that earlier. And some of my teachers have been giving them a little bit of extra time, so they might not even check for it till like Thursday afternoon. But there's definitely a day lag time for the kids that are distance learning as opposed to the kids that are in person.
Thank you.
I've been reminded in regard to plan.
Mr. Curtis.
Hold on just a second. I've been reminded that TSBA will have some guidelines to what mentoring is at on Saturday. Also, policy 6.300, Dr. Goldman wants to is the code of conduct. So if that policy could be amended with principal input, you could go ahead and say, this is our code of conduct, and then here is disciplinary matters, even if it's virtual disciplinary matters, and we can do that. Okay, who else want to make a comment?
Mr. Curtis, this is Stephanie Alexander at Short Mountain. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
So Jennifer, I would like to speak to that as well. We have some virtual learners who said they had a device and said they had reliable internet. Come to find out that they are relying on a hotspot from a cell phone. So even though I have provided them with the Chromebooks that the technology department has given me, they're still trying to run one or more Chromebooks off of a cell phone hotspot, which is just typically not sufficient. So many of those parents are requesting paper packets, and there's really a week's lag time because our pickup and drop off is on Monday. Some of those parents are being really diligent and getting that work turned in on Monday. I've got students who, if we were to send home a progress report today, they would probably have nearly straight zeros because they will not do the work and turn it in. And my teachers are really frustrated. So this really just piggybacks off of what other principals have shared. Some of the same issues going on at Short Mountain, but you know, teachers are trying to stay on top of the virtual assignments, the Google Classroom assignments, the paper packet assignments, and the kids in the classroom. And they are really struggling with just juggling all of that in the amount of time that they've been given to do it. They're not complaining. They are working really hard, but I'm very concerned about the teachers and the effect that it is having on them mentally and emotionally and physically.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Appreciate that response. And particularly morale, you know, is going to, as we go further in this, morale will get lower, and we're going to need to be addressing that. All right, I think can we have a break, or Mr. Chairman, or I'm sorry, I was going to say Mr. Chairman, I'm Chairman. Is everybody okay? Y'all want to press on? Want to press on? Okay, all right, thank you, principals, and like I say, there's more to come on this, and we've got a lot of issues we're going to try to work out. In the morning, I'll be on with the Upper Cumberland directors, and I will be talking with them explicitly in regard to distance learning. Because we're doing the same thing. Y'all have to drive to Cookville every time we have a meeting. We're doing it on Zoom or on Google Meet. In fact, it's what we're doing it on. So that's saving you mileage and saving you county mileage and traveling there. So that is a positive. There are some positives in the middle of all this negative. There are a few some positives. Okay, we'll move on to looking at approving the copy release proposals. We go from very, what you think something not important, but you can see we're having trouble with our copy anyway, so the copy release is running out. And if we see we have two proposals there for a copy lease. One is Canon. The vendor is Canon Solutions America. You can probably see the one that's run like this. We want it. Canon Solutions America is $104.36 a month. Xerox Corporation is, which we currently have, is $252.14 a month. And then MTR Inc., which is Kyocera, is $1,023 a month is their proposals. And you can see the rest of the black and white, the copper color. Mainly I want you to look at is the next to last column. And that is the average monthly charge. All those other columns have to do with price per black and white copy, price per color copy. The the average volume that we've been turning out at the central office, and the average volume of black and white and volume color. The next line is the one that really is the keeper in all this, and that's the average monthly charge. It's going to be approximately, the can, $634.89. And Xerox is $879.94. MTR, Color Zero is $1,298.60. So, I think you probably know the one which I'd like to have. Mr. Coker, any differences? Can we do everything as Xerox is trying to do with our networking and scanning and all of that? You looked at those specs.
I looked at the specs. It's just slightly below, like 10 pages per minute on speed. But it's hard to justify the cost difference. So probably the best route that you can.
So my recommendation as director would be to go with the Canon bid first of all. Would be my recommendation. Okay, any additional stuff on the copy list proposals? Let's go to item number 10, policy revisions. Now, as part of the Tennessee School Boards Association, we pay for legal assistance with our policies. And what happens, TSBA's lawyers, Ms. Jennifer White and Ms. Emily Warren, go through our policies, and because state law is changing and federal law is changing, that means we have to change our own policies because of state and federal laws. So what happened is 6.305, notice we passed it in July. If you look at just any of these, and let's just go down the list, 6.305, you see I put a summary for you in large letters. So you've got a summary page that says 16 meeting policy 6.305 changes recommended. As policy 6.305, it contains discrimination, harassment procedures that conflict now with 6.304 as well as 6.3041. And they said, I'm attaching, this is Jennifer White, I'm attaching a model policy. Our version of 6.305 is working against the focuses on responding to general student complaints rather than creating a formal grievance process, which we've already got in 6.304. And on top of everything, not only did some state laws change, but there were major changes in Title IX. And I'll be glad to talk to you off the record about it regarding Title IX. Dr. Belton is our Title IX coordinator, and used to think Title IX was nothing more than dealing with gender issues in sports or gender equity issues. Now it deals with bullying, it deals with sexual harassment, it deals with mud things. So we've had to, TSBA has earned their money by having to go back and redo these policies. So 6.305, you can see the current policy, and then what the SBA recommends, we change it. So the current policy has the current on it, and then it says remove, 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 and then you have then, when you say, well, what about the student concerns, grievances, complaints, and grievances? They are looked at in another section, another policy. So that's 6.305. You see the proposed new. I left it at 5 days. On the TSBA recommendation, which is blank on, in our current policy, it's 5 days. That the printed form is available at the school office in 2 days. The appeal will be decided confidentially and promptly, preferably within 5 school days. So principals have that to do. If the principal does not make an decision in 5 school days, the parents or guardians may appeal by contacting the director of school or his designee. That's 6.305. 6.316 is another one that deals with suspension, expulsion, and remand. Again, you see our current policy that was just adopted in July, where TSBA went look at that again and saying, okay, here's what state law is saying now, here's what you used to do, and here's now what you can do. You can see Ms. Warren, this is Emily Warren, wrote this from TSBA. Therefore, the updated version of section takes down 913 goes on 15 and this is the same. The as well. Additionally, I would recommend deleting lines 14 to 34 and adding lines 14 to 15, which are from the new policy. And these terms and definitions correspond to TCA 49-6-307, TCA Statistic Code annotated. And this is where it's at. Almost all education law is in chapter 49 of TCA. And we'll talk about that at one of our orientation meetings just on TCA 49. And relate to how the absence is coded. This is different from the ways that statutes deal with student discipline and is more focused on school funding. And she has attached their, what they recommend for suspension. And then expulsion is looked at totally different now in another policy. So that's a recommendation on 6.316. Okay, 6.319 is the updated policy states an alternative school program. State law recently, in the last legislative session, changed on alternative school. So you can look at these, the policies in state law, the alternative schools and operations students who have been suspended more than 10 days or expelled. If staff and space are available, additional policy speaks for instances where due violation of the policies of schools found to be extended in an alternative school. However, state law is providing clarity around this issue, and any new disciplinary offense committed shall not constitute an extension or original suspension or expulsion, but a new one. So, for those reasons, she recommends that the board adopt a version of the model policy that puts it in alignment with state law. So again, that's why we pay TSBA to do this, is that your director probably does not have the time to go back and research state law about any of these changes that the state does. I probably pay TSBA to do it. So you can see that. One thing that we would do there, it says IG night school. We do not have night school or any other programs to do that in school suspension. So that would be what would be in the box. So if the district maintains both an alternative school and a program, we adopt both definitions, which we do. So because of the elementary grades, we do in-school suspension at those schools, and then if they're related to alternative school from 7th grade up. Okay. And then finally, 4.601, 4.601. We've not done 6 weeks grading in a long time. I don't know how this has got by us for so long, but that needs to be changed from every 6 weeks to every 9 weeks. During that, and March that was changed from 05, I think, to 509. And in 09, this policy was issued back in the day. So we've not done 6 weeks grading periods in I don't know, a long time. So that one just changes that from 6 weeks to 9 weeks from that one. Okay, you can see Jennifer White, I added her email there. And basically what I did was to take at each one of those policies and did what Jennifer and Emily wanted. Emily has put that. And normally what I would do in a board meeting, like in a board meeting setting, is to adopt policies of amendment or a motion to revise policy, taking organization policy 6.305, 6.316, 6.319, and 4.601 as recommended by TSBA. So you covered yourself that legally that these are the recommendations of TSBA. So your dues are very, very well spent on those policies in doing those. Any questions in regard to those policies? And your policies are your guides. So, board members, I will repeat that multiple times. The policy is your bylaws. It's what you go by. It's, you don't make this stuff up. This is what you have adopted over boards previously that you have adopted. Okay. Any questions? Any questions there? Okay. Now, number 11. Is approved review of board policies. What you do, if you look at a board policy, any board policy you want to, you will see that it is reviewed annually in a certain date. So you go back into those policies I just had out, it says annually review this policy in, like example, 6.305, you review it annually in March. We have a schedule that has been adopted by the board and by previous boards to look at these. Your first section that you're going to be reviewing on Thursday night and say that you reviewed this is section 1. So here's what I'm going to do for you. You can go to our website at ccsdm.net and go to that second tab and do with the board, and it goes down about 4 or 5 down, it's policies. These are where all these policies can be found for anybody. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to have our secretarial staff and get the copier fixed and make you copies of section 1. And section 1 hardly ever changes. And so section 1 has to do with your responsibilities as board members, your code of ethics, your membership, your involvement, your new member orientation. All of that is involved in this. So we're going to get you copies of section 1 for you. If we did every policy, it would literally be this city. So in our modern age and modern times, we don't have to do that now. I just keep going. I still got it somewhere. When I was principal, we would keep a copy of the board's policy where we had it. Now, then they put the CDs, and now it's online. So Brian, thank you. TSBA also does that. Brian just puts the link on there. Brian's team does. They put the link on there where you can go to it anytime you want to. So that's done by again, your TSBA dues that you pay. That is paid for by that program that you do with TSBA. And this is hosted by them. All we do is provide it. And they revise it all. I let their lawyers handle it. And that's the best way to do that, in my opinion. Other boards have done it over the last period of years. But what we will say in this particular time, that we went back and we looked through this. We're going to be looking through that anyway. So you're just saying that you've reviewed this. And if you do find something like we did with the 6 to 9 weeks, then you recommend for changes and put that on the agenda for the change. So you can go through these and look for these and say, well, this is something I'd like to change. You have to watch that legally. Certain things can be changed and certain things can't be changed. That'd be my advice. A lot of attorneys that I would tell you what our school attorney would say. That watch what you change. Make sure that's why we sent it for TSBA to change. Jacob, I think you need to say something. Usually we usually do a motion that we do that. We have reviewed this. Everybody said yes, we reviewed. And I will give you a schedule. I'll have that for you. I'll make myself a note. I'll have a schedule for you for the entire. I think I've got that on already for you already. That just tells you which months we review certain things like the fiscal stuff. Number 2, we review that in January when you start your fiscal, start thinking about budget. We do that in January. And you review that because you're going to do it anyway. And students are a certain time, all of them, that you see that on the website. So any questions about the review? Safety report was already done. Director's comments, I think you've heard me talk a lot tonight, more than I normally talk, because I'm the chairman. I'm the chairman. It's the one who So, let me just say this as part of my comments. I would like to schedule, and I'm supposed to schedule an orientation with new board members in the first 30 days. We're going to do part of that on Saturday. But what I would like to do is to poll the board on other times that you could possibly meet. Because what I'd like you to do, all 4 of y'all are brand new. I'd like for you to meet our supervisors. I would like you to meet our principals. And with them, just tell you, a small amount in a summary of what they do. An example, Ms. Mullins is there, Ms. Julie is here tonight. Ms. Julie is our special education supervisor. You may not know Ms. Julie. Ms. Julie is new to our district. And so some of you probably don't know Ms. Julie. But Ms. Julie Vincent, what I would like for her is to come one evening, and part of that evening, she share her vision of what she's doing in special education. Same thing with Ms. Kathy Mullins, my former student. Excuse me, Ms. Mullins, I have to get used to that. But Ms. Mullins is doing incredible work with our Title I, our federal program, all of our federal programs, and she's also on the pre-K. Bonnie has, coming out, probably 4 or 5 hats that Bonnie wears, and that Bonnie Patterson wears. Marcia is one supervisor for K-12, correct, Dr. Melton? So she's doing the work of a lot of folks. In some systems, they got 2 or 3 supervisors that do what she does, and dividing it up. Some high school, some middle grades, and some lower grades. Marcia lives in a really small school system that everybody wears multiple hats. Lisa Black, who's online tonight, she does 3 things. She is transportation. She's a supervisor transportation. She is our data person who does Skyward. She's our intake person. And she also does ESP, or after school program.
Take a day to do all that.
Well, that's what we would like to take some 3 days, some evenings to do that. 3 days, double track. So I appreciate that, Mr. Murray. I know that. So that's where, as the chairman was real again, said, that's not more than 2 minutes, whatever. I didn't say I didn't do the agenda. It's no usually say whatever. But seriously, I want to do that and to get with your schedules to introduce our principals. Some of you are elected from your district, but you may not know the principal. Our new principal at Short Mountain, Stephanie Alexander, which is known. You may not know Stephanie very well. I know her well, but I didn't know her about it. She was a cousin of my wife, so I know Stephanie since the day but some of you do not know that, or you might not know if you're representing Westlake, you might not know Ms. Hancock from Woodbury Grammar. Lisa knows her incredibly well, but others of you may not know. So that's why I was wanting my principals to come in and to just talk with you kind of their vision about the schools. And maybe that over a couple of periods of nights to orient you not only to the policy, but the human faces that you see with that. Is that something you'd like to, Mr. Mann, did y'all do anything like that previously? And all, I don't think so. Marcia, y'all done anything like that previously?
I went by a couple times and introduced myself and talked to everybody, but I knew most of it.
But that's what I'd like to do with the branding board. My job is to go back and be a teacher, not necessarily lecturer, but a teacher to each of you as a board. And that's part, and one thing I want to tell you this, I am your employee. This board employs one person. Okay, everybody can understand that. You employ one person, the director of schools. And the director of schools that employs all friends and colleagues and individuals. And I some of these folks, for example, Mr. Pitts has been, I don't know how many directors, and he's been superintendent since 1967. Mr. Pitts is still our assistant, by the way, and working at the high school. So you think about how many directors and superintendents they've been through. And so the bodies out here, I say the older ones. So this is what that's Marcia. Yes, 6 superintendents. 1 twice, so there you go. And she was one of those. She supervised it. You're right, that's right. Did you count that? Maybe 7. So, not to make you feel young, but all of us, you employ teachers, and then I am your employee. So that's where we have to understand those lines. Is that that was done way before my time. Okay, that's all I have. I don't direct comments. I'm the chairman, acting chairman, so that was the chairman's comments. Only time I can do that is the September meeting at this workshop. So That's the only comment I have in regard to that. Mr. Fortune. So, any other things anybody wants to talk about before we move forward? I'm kept you long, and I appreciate our staff and doing this. And those listening, Brian will take you a little bit to condense this one. We will record this. This is made available and to the public in the morning. Okay? All right, thank you very much.